Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Economic Growth Forum organized by the Financial Academy, and greetings from our office in Dubai. Today, we will share the AI applications, AI use cases, and the future of AI in financial services and, of course, in KSA and the Middle East region. And I would like to start by thanking the Financial Academy for organizing this activity. So as most of you probably know, the Financial Academy is one of the pillars of the financial sector initiatives under the Subdivision 2030. And as of last year, it became an independent entity focusing on upskilling and improving the knowledge and skills of the people in the financial services industry. Tonight, I will be joined by two of my colleagues from PwC. We will have Necem Quadri, partner of our financial services division, and also we will have the other guest speaker, Isa Dalul, a senior manager from the PwC's Academy. I would like to welcome them on behalf of all the participants logged into the webinar at the moment. Okay, we can now look at the agenda of today. I'm waiting for our session managers to open up my presentation. And of course, a big thanks to all the organizers of the event and all the people who are just working at the moment in the background, who have been doing all the rehearsals to make this session run smoothly. Okay, so after making introductions and also just covering the agenda, we will do a quick introduction to PwC Middle East and the PwC's Academy. And then I will have the second part of the session, demystifying AI. I will share what is AI, how AI works with some general business use cases to help you understand AI use cases, which Necem will share in the third part, AI in financial services. He will share many cutting-edge use cases from across our global network and also from the region and also from KSA as well. And then I will cover what are the initiatives taken by the KSA government, KSA authorities in the field of artificial intelligence. Where are we going there and how we can compare it with the other countries' initiatives globally. And finally, Isa will cover the need for upskilling in AI. So why should we focus on upskilling in AI, and also what is KSA's focus in that field and what are the initiatives that we are taking as the company. Please kindly submit all your questions throughout this session. We will have a good amount of time at the end to answer all your questions. And I will be checking all your questions and might be answering some of them throughout the session wherever applicable. But we are waiting for the questions coming in throughout the session. We will try to address all of them depending on the duration at the end of the session. Having said that, I would like to hand over now to Necem Quadri, our partner in financial services, for the introduction of PwC Middle East.
Please unmute. Please unmute, Isa.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Semi. Thank you for giving initial introduction and background about PwC and the three panelists, including myself. And I want to start off by saying that it's an absolute pleasure to be here with the wider forum. I know it's virtually organized. Unfortunately, this is what it is getting into. But obviously, with the help of technology, we are at least able to speak and be connected to ourselves, right? I'll start off with a bit of an introduction about myself. My name is Najam Qadri. I am a partner within financial services advisory services within PwC in the region. And I look after digital and technology related aspects. So within financial services, banking, and other organizations, whenever it comes to discuss about the digital and technology related aspects, my name pops up, and I certainly go and have a conversation about that. Yeah, I have been in the region since 2011. It's been a very interesting journey, and I've seen a lot of transformation happening in the region. Uh, you know, in terms of digital and technology, and the way KSA is spearheading the entire transformation is really remarkable. Before coming to this region, I was in Singapore, and I was working with a large international bank, basically Credit Suisse. Yeah. I'll start off a bit about what PwC Middle East has. I mean, I'm not going to go into the absolute details. Obviously, the information is there. PwC is a well known brand in the region, but I can give you a bit of snippet around this. Uh, PwC, it's been almost 42 years that PwC has completed in the region. Within the Middle East, PwC is the largest organization when it comes to the big fours. And this year, thankfully, we have also completed our revenue in Middle East, which is almost $1 billion now. So we have touched $1 billion. So it's a large organization. We have almost 300 plus partners in the region, and our offices are spread across 12 geographies or 12 countries within the Middle East region. Yeah. We have specialized services across the four key dimensions. Uh, Consulting is one of the key service lines. Then we also provide assurance. Then we also provide tax related services. And we are also very much active in the deals and transactions related services. When it comes to advisory and consulting, we are obviously involved in all the major domains, including financial services, where I come from. But we don't stop there. We obviously go into oil and gas, we go into government related services. We also go into healthcare related services, and we have been working with a number of clients, in the region, especially in the KSA. And we feel very privileged to be instrumental in the transformation journey within the region. Yeah, be it technology, be it risk and regulatory, be it any other aspect. Yeah, we feel very privileged to be a part of it. That's a bit about PwC Middle East. I would like to hand it over to Semi to give a perspective on the PwC Middle East Academy. Yeah, that is where a lot of conversation is going to happen today. Semi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Najim, for this nice introduction. Actually, I would like to give the opportunity to introduce himself and also introduce our academy. I would like to hand over to Isa Daul, our head of Digital Academy at PwC's Academy, for the introduction.
Thank you so much, Samir. Thank you, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum and Masa al Khair, everyone. Pleasure to have you all this evening, this nice evening, and I'm happy to be part of this event. And thanks again to the Financial Academy for the well organization of this event. So just a quick introduction of myself and the Academy. So I'm a senior manager in the PwC Academy. So the PwC Academy is the training arm for PwC. So we've been established for almost more than 8 years in the region, and we have almost 40 academies across the network. So usually people don't associate the academy with the PwC because it's well known about the consulting and the advisory and the assurance. However, most of our clients were also like they're always happy and keen to know how we are developing our people and how we're upskilling our people, and they would like to have talent similar to what we have in the PwC. And this is where the idea of establishing PwC Academy came along. Like this was like almost 15 years ago, and this is when we started establishing those academies across the network. So here our focus is mainly on KSA and UAE market, and we operate in 6 other countries. I lead the Digital Academy, which is focused on the cyber and emerging technologies, but we also focus on other areas like leadership, marketing, and HR and finance and accounting, tax, etc. So we cover all the value chain from all the way from assessment and talent identification and talent assessment, all the way till doing the reporting and metrics and measuring the outcomes of our training and development programs. So we work across with all sectors, from government to private sector, and also we work on with retail, like we do also training like open courses, and we do also the corporate in-house courses. So this is in a nutshell the academy, and again I'm so happy to be here tonight, and I'll hand it over now back to Samih to move on to the next section.
Thank you very much, Isa, for the introduction and also for introducing our academy. Now, it is your turn to actually introduce yourselves as the participants. If the session managers can show my screen now. So we would like to hear from you. We would like to get to know you, because we know that there are hundreds of participants watching right now. So just to have an idea about your background and also your opinions on artificial intelligence, we prepared these poll questions. You'll answer these poll questions throughout the session, so please do not close your window. So how it works, if you used Menti before, so you know the drill, please open your mobile phone's camera and scan the QR code. If you cannot scan, go to menti.com on your mobile phones, and when prompted, enter the code you see on the screen, 40 10 76 06. I will now move on to the poll questions. Okay, the instructions are on the screen as well. At the top of the slide, go to menti.com, use the code 40 10 76 06. And the first question is, what is your background, as in which departments, which industry, is it related to data, artificial intelligence, finance? So that's we'd like to just find out first. Okay, answers are coming in. We have business administration participants, marketing people as well. Waiting for others. The instructions are at the top of the screen. Go to menti.com, and when prompted, use the code 40 10 76 06. Okay, more answers are coming in. Marketing seems to be the bigger one. We have also some from the same industry as us, training, business administration, awareness people. Okay, very interesting. Business development, hello to all of you. Finance, education as well, investment, financial markets. Okay, more answers are coming in. But marketing seems to be the bigger one. I think the people from training and education might be delegates from the financial academy itself. So greetings to all of you. Blockchain, we have some blockchain experts. Very interesting to see. Of course, we have finance professionals in the call as well. Waiting for others to answer too. So at the top of the screen, please go to menti.com and use the code 40107606. Some operations guys joining in as well. Okay, training seems to be the biggest word. And we have marketing, business development, business administrations. Thank you. Next question. So how do you see AI based on what you see in your environment? So do you think it is a reality or is it a hype? Okay, so now 50-50 equality, waiting for more answers. So we are really curious to see what you think here, and it will just help us set the tone for the continuation of the session. So 50-50 so far. So there is a draw between two. So half believe it is reality. Okay, it's started to change. The hype seems to be the majority at the moment. Again, we have a draw again. Now reality starts to ramp up. Okay, let's see how we will converge by the end of the voting. So now currently 67% believes it's actually reality, and 33% it is mostly hype. Waiting for more votes to come in, and then we will move on to the content. You can submit your opinions by going to the menti.com, and when prompted, use the code at the top of the screen 40107606. Okay, I will end the voting here. So majority thinks it is actually a reality. Now let's see some actual examples which make it a reality. So I will now help you understand what is AI, how it works, and also it will help you to understand the concepts and the use cases that Najim will share. So here we see this very famous chess game between Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion back then, and IBM's chess machine called Deep Blue. Just think about a moment if you can remember when this game was played. And so you can see this nice quote by Garry Kasparov. It actually happened in 1997. And there are some other famous things about artificial intelligence competing with people or doing some of the human tasks, etc. Which was the popular events because of the fear that AI will replace humans, etc. But if we think about the actual applications of AI, so we didn't see much of AI, or we didn't talk a lot about AI until recently. So AI has become a very popular, one of the mostly used buzzwords of our time in the past 2-3 years. So why it started? It was popular around 1997 and it just became so popular recently. It actually has two main reasons. The first one is the improvements in the processing power. If you have some children playing video games in their computers, or if you are a gamer yourself, so you know what I mean by the graphics cards. So basically, AI researchers discovered that the same thing as the games use to process video can be used by the AI algorithms to process a lot of data, a lot of information, and come up with the results in a very short time. So this led to AI achieving better and better performances and contribute to the current popularity of AI. And the second major development is the accumulation of big data. Can you imagine that 90% of the digital data we have has been generated over the last 2 years, and COVID-19 has only accelerated it. The growth, the exponential growth of the big data is actually incredible. And why is it important for AI? Data is actually the raw material for AI. The more data, the better AI solutions we get. So accumulation of big data combined with the improvements in the processing power helped AI achieve more and better results. And this led to the current popularity of AI. Actually, without being aware of it, we were using AI a lot in our daily lives. So all these use cases you see on the slide are actually using AI as a technology in the background. If you are using any kinds of maps or navigation, it is AI. If you are using Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant at your houses, it is AI. If you are using the photo tagging on Facebook or Instagram, it is AI. Or if you are using the translations, if you are benefiting from the spam filters on the emails, etc., all of them are using AI. Actually, the problem of AI is once it works, when we call it something else, we don't call it AI anymore. But so although we have all these daily use cases, we didn't see a lot of business use cases or a lot of demand on AI from the business world until recently. So now the purpose of this webinar is actually to convince you and also to encourage you to build your AI strategy and create and start some actions about to embrace AI and build your own AI solutions. Now, I would like to ask you another question and see where are you in your AI journey. Before moving ahead, I'd like to see to make you share your opinions as well. So without me or the other guest speakers speaking too much. So I'd like to give you the chances in between the sessions and get your opinion on how you are using AI, how much you know about AI, and how you are embracing AI. So where are you in your AI journey? Are you exploring the technology or already benchmarking with others? Or maybe you have already been there and implemented many use cases. Okay, answers are coming in. So far, 50% are exploring the technology, 50% implemented many use cases already. Okay, more answers coming in towards exploring the technology. Waiting for more answers. So if you just missed the instructions are still at the top of the screen. Please go to menti.com on your mobile phones and when prompted use the code 40107606. Okay, 80% are exploring the technology. It is actually good to hear, so there are a lot you can take from this session, and 20% implemented many use cases already. Okay, let's see how we will change these percentages by the end of the session. Okay, now I would like to just answer this question for yourselves. So, what is the position of the cat in this photo? So, starting from the left, can you identify the position of the cat in this photo? It is actually very easy, right? So, it is just the third one from the left. We have 3 dogs and 1 cat. So, although it's an extremely easy task for the human being. So we have a baby daughter, 1.5 years or so. Even she can differentiate between the cats and dogs. So for us to learn what is dog, what is cat. It is enough for us to see like around 10 dogs or cats or their pictures to learn which one is dog, which one is cat. Actually, it is not a very easy task for artificial intelligence. So AI needs to see many examples to learn, to identify the differences between the two objects. And I'd like to give you another second for you to find the cat in this photo just for yourself. You can just zoom into the screen and check and try to just find it in the background somewhere, maybe in the middle, in the corners, etc. Maybe just one of them in the very far corners, etc. Actually, there is no cat in this photo, and it took us much more than the previous one to answer this question: is there any cat in this photo or not? So although the previous one was an easy question for us human beings and a difficult one for AI, this photo, this question was very easy for AI. AI could answer within less than a second that there is no cat in this photo. Just to emphasize you how AI works, I just want to start with this example. So it takes some effort, some time to train the AI models, accomplish some of the tasks that we can do as human beings. And once it learns what it can do, the tasks that we can do, it can do it faster than human beings without any break, 7 days, 24 hours, and most of the times with more accuracies than the human beings. So we see many use cases as in this case. So imagine you had to scan through thousands of images and just label the ones which has cat in them. AI could do that within less than a minute, although it would take us a lot of time to scan through all of them. Now there are some AI solutions which detect the diseases better than the doctors, which can give legal advices better than the lawyers. So AI, one of the formal definitions of AI is making intelligent machines. And it is actually the most important characteristic of AI over other computer terms is it learns from the experience. So it learns from the past data. What do we mean by that? We provide thousands of cat images, thousands of dog images to the AI algorithm, and it learns the differences and similarities between those images. Let's demonstrate it and let's see it in action, shall we? Now I will switch to my other screen so you will see me in both sides, from both sides. Okay. So now I will teach an AI model mask. So currently I have the first group of images which I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm just taking snapshots through my webcam, just moving around, and I have more than 100 image samples. And in the second one, as you will see, I'm wearing my mask, taking snapshots again, just moving around, see different angles. Okay, exactly 112 images. Let's call it mask. Now I'm training an AI model here. As you have seen, I didn't do any specific instructions. I didn't tell the machine, tell AI what is a mask, where I put it, or how it looks, etc. I just provided my images. So it is what we mean by the past data or past experiences. And as you can see, the output of my current video streaming says no mask. And let's see what happens when I put on my mask. Oh, sorry. As you can see, it correctly predicts that I am wearing a mask. So I didn't give any instructions at all. I didn't do any writing, code writing, nothing. I just provided the past data, images of different examples, mask, no mask, and it just understood the differences and similarities between the two images, and it is able to make the correct predictions also already. So this is what we mean by learning from the past experience. Let's go back to the presentation. Actually, I would like to emphasize the importance of data for AI with the story of a bank. So since it's relevant to the financial academy and also to our audience. So a bank wanted to do an AI project and they hired an AI startup company, AI vendor company. The task was to profile their customers, create a profile of their existing customers, and go to public, go to the whole population and look for people who look like their customers so that they will focus their marketing events and they will be able to reduce their marketing costs. So initially, it actually sounds like a great idea, great example of an AI project. But actually, the bank made a very big mistake. So AI algorithms don't work that way. As you have seen in the demonstration, I provided both my pictures with the mask and also without the mask. So AI was able to find the similarities and differences between the two images. But the bank had only their customers' data. In order to AI understand who makes their customer, they should provide the data of their non-customers as well. So AI can predict who is likely to become a customer of the bank and who is not likely to become a customer of the bank. Because the bank didn't have this project in mind, because they didn't have an AI strategy, they didn't start collecting the data to support this AI strategy, they actually couldn't implement this project. They started collecting the data for the non-customers, like people whose loan application got rejected or they didn't want to become the customers of the bank, they rejected the credit card offers, etc. Only after that, after accumulation of that data, they were able to do this project. That's why it is really important to build an AI strategy early and have a data collection strategy so that you can achieve what you want to achieve with artificial intelligence. The first type of AI technique, actually, now we are talking about machine learning. So the specific technique under AI, which makes AI popular, is machine learning. So as we have seen in the demonstration, machine learns itself. I'm not teaching it specifically. It learns itself from the data. In supervised learning, I am providing different kinds of images, different types of images or different types of data like customer, non-customer, or in HR use case, hired people, not hired people. And the machine learns itself, finding the similarities and differences between different groups. And once the model is ready, it can predict, as we have seen in the demonstration, whether I'm wearing a mask or not wearing it. Or in the bank example, when a new person walks in the bank, whether he is likely to become a customer or not likely to become a customer. Or for HR people, when they receive an application, they can calculate whether this candidate is likely to be hired or not. So we have different classes, different groups of data points, and the machine is learning itself. In the second type of machine learning technique, we have unsupervised learning. So this is the best example of customer segmentation. We have marketing fellows here in the session. So let's say we started our company, a financial services or fintech startup, and we reached 1 million customers in a very short time. Now, we would like to segment these 1 million customers so that we can focus our marketing efforts, we can develop some specific products and services for specific segments. So unsupervised learning algorithms help us here. We ask the algorithm to find the natural groups and segments within our customer base. And then we are analyzing what segments provided by the algorithm. And then we are calling some of them youth, students, executives, premium accounts, housewives, working professionals, etc. So algorithms really help here in that sense. So these type of algorithms help with fraud detection as well. They can scan through all the transactions and identify which transactions are normal and which transactions are anormal and need some human investigation. And the third type of technique is called reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning is what happens in the chess example. Actually, they have a very famous example here for playing Go. AlphaGo has beaten the Go world champion, which was believed to be impossible like forever, but they achieved it already a couple years back. So here we are, instead of we are providing data, we are teaching algorithm how to play chess, and the algorithm is playing itself and creating its own data. It literally plays millions of games and sometimes billion games, and it just comes up with the unbeatable strategy at the end so that in any given situation, the computer can make the best moves. So what it means for the business context. So of course, the autonomous vehicles work with this technique. So the autonomous vehicle always makes a decision. So I see the yellow light. Should I stop or should I accelerate and pass it? So it is seeing different objects. So should I stop? Should I slow down? Or is it okay to pass by? Or two cars are approaching, which lane to take, or what speed should it take when it is entering a curve, a turn, etc. Or for logistics supply chain decisions, what should be my optimum inventory level in the coming months, which will help me minimize my inventory costs, at the same time maximize my customer order fulfilling ratios. So the most sophisticated algorithms, but they can actually achieve more than the other types of techniques. Now I will share some of the AI use cases we have built at PwC here. Before sharing those, actually I'd like to learn how you are using AI solutions in your organization. So you know the drill already. I'll again switch my screens and open up the poll question and change the questions. Please go to the same screen as you have been using and submit your answers. So the question is, to what extent you are using AI solutions in your organization? So it can be you just don't know. We have a big organization, a lot going on. Or you might already be familiar with some examples, like some departments, finance, marketing, HR, supply chain are using it, or you embraced it already as your team, as your department, and you are using it daily. So again, there is now a draw between the three groups. So same number of people are actually some don't know, some have some examples, and some are using it daily. Okay, so the equality is broken. Some examples are leading right now, waiting for more answers to come in. If you missed the instructions, they are still the same and they're at the top of the screen. Go to menti.com and when prompted, use the code 40107606. Okay, more answers coming in currently. I don't know is behind, and there is equality between some examples and using it daily. Actually, it's great. So it is so you already embraced it, or you are familiar with some of the examples in your organizations. Thank you very much for sharing those examples, and I'll share our examples right now. Actually, we have built so very relevant to the current COVID situation. Hope all of you are safe and well with your families. We have created some social distancing detection and mask detection software, which actually can be used in public areas. So the example, the demonstration I made was only for myself, but it can actually, as you see on the thumbnail, it can scan through all the individuals in a public area and actually detect the people who are not wearing the mask. And actually the similar type of algorithm we have built, the product we have built, actually able to identify the required distance between the people, and also again creates alerts when people are not obeying to those social distances. And the next one is for traffic detection. And actually these solutions here are at our experience center in our Dubai office. So if you are in Dubai, or if you just drop here, we would like to welcome you in our office and actually show the actual products that I'm sharing here. So this solution can detect the traffic in real time, and when its data connected to the traffic light signal management system, so it can just optimize different routes and direct people towards different directions, and also optimize the red and green light ratios in the crowded spaces. And actually we can cut the commuting time by 50 to 20% by this product, by this solution. So if you just multiply this saving in the commuting time by the number of people who are commuting every day in a city, in a crowded city like Riyadh, just imagine the total savings we can achieve by implementing only this solution. Another use case is for claims management. So we are able to implement for our clients this auto claims process. So for the insurance, for the mainly car insurance companies, taking the photos of the damaged cars helps the insurance providers detect the damages, obviously, and also detect some of the unforeseen damages or maybe unnoticed damages, and also at the same time just try to understand how legitimate is this damage when compared to the earlier cases, earlier claims, and also just help with the making the insurance policies as well. So it just really helps with the burden of all this reporting, filing, and also the experts visiting the site and also making all the investigations. So just reduces the time to complete or finish a claims process. And the final example I will share is Cash.ai. It is our award-winning AI audit tool which scans through all the cash-related activities of our external audit clients. It reads through all the transactions. It can read through the bank reports, all the consolidations. It does a full 100% cash scan of cash audit of the client. So normally the auditors would take samples of different transactions in order to save time and energy and investigate only those sampled investigations. But here, Cash.ai scans through 100% of the transactions and only identify some of the risky areas which require human auditors investigation, which requires further investigation. And the best thing about this is it can complete this full cash audit in extra speeds and extraordinary accuracy. It won the most innovative audit product of the year award in 2019. Now I would like to hand back over to Najim Quadri for this time sharing the examples in financial services. Before handing over to him, I would like to ask you actually another question. So we have seen different use cases. Now we will talk about the AI use cases in financial services. I would like to see where you see the AI applications in financial services. So if you didn't see any applications, you can ask which AI applications, or if you think there are some, there is way to go, you can select way to go. Or if you think that there are already a lot of major AI applications, you can go for the third option. Okay, currently 50% between which AI applications and way to go. Let's see more answers, and then I'll hand over to our financial services partner, Najim Quadri, for sharing the actual use cases. Actually, these results will make his job easier. So to convince you more on how major examples actually there are. Okay, also one major vote, so no more votes are coming in. 50% says way to go, 20%, 25% asks which applications. Okay, it is increasing. So equal between which AI applications and way to go. And 20% believe they are major. Okay, thank you very much. Now I'll feed this information to Najim's part, and over to you, Najim.
Giving us a real drawdown in terms of what's happening in the what's happening in the space of AI. What is the key technologies between AI? What I want to take, the participants in the forum today is, so we have seen the AI and the evolution of AI. Now, what I want to do is I want to basically converge it and take it to the financial services and help the forum understand and also discuss and debate that, when we talk about AI, how does this impact in the financial services? What are the leaders talking about? So, for instance, I speak to a lot of CXOs, the CIOs, the CEO, and the COOs, and then I obviously try to understand that what is their perspective when it comes to adopting artificial intelligence within their organization, especially in the banks, and what's the kind of impact, the qualitative benefits and the quantitative benefits that artificial intelligence will leave inside the organization. So one thing I want to just tell you here, guys, is we have seen a bit of a theory in the semis presentation. Now what we're going to see is a bit of a practical aspects. Yeah. And one of the practical aspects in which the banks are constantly using artificial intelligence is the overall transformation in the way in which the banks typically build deeper relationship with their customers. Yeah. So it's very important that everything that you do, every emerging technology that you adopt, it has to have an impact. And a lot of times these impact have to do with the customer experience. And I'm sure the forum that we have here would be having a bit of an understanding of what customer experience and what UX is all about, right? I am a customer. What kind of services the bank provides me, how seamless and how smooth and how frictionless these services are. That is where the game change really happens for the organization. Yeah. So understand that we have seen a bit about artificial intelligence. Now we are going to see that how the impact of artificial intelligence happens, and how CX, which is a boardroom conversation, how this is being adopted with the help of artificial intelligence. Yeah. So I'll start off with a bit of a video that I have, and with the help of this video, and I mean, it's not just a video, we have in fact done this work for one of the banks in the region, one of the top banks in the region, wherein we have used the artificial intelligence to understand what the customer is saying. In other words, we also call it NLP, natural language processing. And we combine this technology with the help of robotics process automation. So we bring automation and artificial intelligence together and solve the end problem for the customer, and hence improve the customer experience. Okay. Why don't we start off with that video, Semi, if you can please play that. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for playing this video. What we wanted to really showcase in this particular video, and I'm sure you would have realized that we have combined the natural language processing, which is a subset of the artificial intelligence, and combine that with the help of robotics process automation, which is the automation around it, and try to solve the problem which the customer basically has, right? So in a real life scenario, if you see, if I am a customer and God forbids I lose my credit card, I have to call the customer care and I get my credit card blocked. Yeah. And it sometimes take a lot of time while I'm worried about my credit card and some sort of theft that can happen on my lost credit card. Why can't we straight away go on my phone, go to the WhatsApp, tell the bank that please block my credit card, and it will ask for verification. And the moment the verification has been done for the customer, it goes to the back end with the help of automated solution. It blocks the customer, comes back and tells that your credit card has been blocked, and do you want me to initiate a new request for a credit card? Yeah. So similar to this, there could be multiple such use cases. What I have been talking to a lot of banks in the region, and a lot of banks have been on the journey of implementing those things. Now, as you can imagine, we are moving into an era where, with the help of AI, we are trying to improve the efficiencies in the way in which we basically serve the customers. When I mean customers, I mean you and I and everyone around us, right? So, in my section of presentation, there are three things, in fact, four things that I want to cover. Number one, I want to give a bit of a context, yeah, in terms of what is the AI strategy and how banks are adopting and embracing the artificial intelligence, and what the CEOs and the CIOs and the CDOs are talking about, right? And so once we talked about that, what is the context of the artificial intelligence, then we come in the next journey, which is the middle part that you see, in which we basically delve deeper into a bit on a use case, and then we also show how a live demo, with the help of another AI plus robotics that we carried out in another bank here. And then subsequently we also try to see that how can we see AI more into action and start delving into what are the better and more use cases that we see, in terms of how banks are adopting it. And finally, the bottom triangle that you see, we would also talk about or touch upon that what are the challenges in adopting artificial intelligence in the banks here in the region, especially in KSA, and how can we really adopt it and take the journey forward. Yeah. So that's how we're gonna construct our session. I'm assuming I've got at least 15 to 20 minutes to cover it, so I'll go accordingly, inshallah. So in my section one, yeah, go to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is an introductory slide, and in every conversation and every every session that I hold with any of the banks, this is where I start my conversation with. Yeah, on your left hand side, what you see is that technology has been maturing, right? We used to have Excels, we used to have macros, yeah, but now the technology has become sophisticated, it has become matured, and as we go along, there's a lot of push around the automation. Yeah. And I'm sure in journals and in newspapers and in discussions you would hear a lot about automation. And I personally have been very much involved in the journey of implementing robotics and automation across the banks, right? Across the back office, middle office, and even sometimes in the front office. Now, when you talk about a simple automation, we're talking about everything has to be rule based. Yeah. Everything has to be rule based, because the moment you start putting any judgment, yeah, the robot will not be able to action. Yeah. And hence, at this particular juncture, you start incorporating artificial intelligence on top of it. Yeah. So when you cannot suffice your requirement with the help of a standard rule, and where in cases the human judgment has to be adopted, you start seeing the emergence of artificial intelligence related technologies, right? And what are the technologies that we're talking about? As is what you see on your right hand side in the red boxes. Yeah, these are certain terms that you should have in your mind, and every conversation that you have, I'm sure that you'll start reading and understanding more about it. So obviously, within artificial intelligence, which is a mother term, there are multiple subsets. Most importantly used is machine learning. This is a device by virtue of which an algorithm learns by itself. Yeah, it's a self-learning capability. Yeah. Second thing is natural language processing. Now, this is extremely important, especially in our side of the world, where people like to chat and people like to talk over any chat window, etc. Now, what we tend to do is we tend to create an algorithm which is able to automatically understand and decipher what's been written in a free text format. You call it natural language processing. This is a term which I'll use a lot, because there are a number of use cases that are emerging with the help of NLP. Then you obviously have natural language generation. So once you have understood a lot of data, lot of details from various sources, how can you create a report? How can you generate a report out of it and make sense out of it? That is called as natural language generation. A lot of CFOs, yeah, when they produce the investment manual, a lot of regulatory reports, they tend to use natural language generation related use cases. Then obviously you have standard techniques around OCR, optical character recognition, and then you also have a very broad and a very well used phenomena called as data analytics. So once you have a lot of data, how you're going to use that data is called as data analytics, right? Now these are certain technologies, or at least these terms, it should be there in our minds, because in every conversation that we go about, these are certain technologies that we will start talking about and start knowing more about it, right? If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, why is this change, right? Why are we talking? Why are we saying that, this, the technology is getting matured? We are going more towards artificial intelligence. It's because of three laws, that came in history. And, some scientist and some researcher came up with these laws. Number one, Moore's law. I studied it in my 12th class and in my university. Moore's law says that the power of semiconductor, the processing power, doubles in every 18 months. And now if you see, and I think Semi was talking in the beginning about it, the processing power has become extremely powerful. What I can do with my iPhone now, I think the computers could not have done, back in the days. Why it's happening is because of the processing power, and there's a Moore's law behind it. Then there's another very important law. I'm not going to go into the details. That is called as Butler's law. Yeah. And what it does is that the amount of data that gets shared between two nodes, yeah, that gets doubled up after every 9 months. So you can see the kind of data that is getting produced. And Semi gave us an example that the 90% of the data I think got generated in the past couple of years, right? And how is this data traveling? With the help of the optical fiber characteristics. And Butler's law was a law that basically came up. And then finally there's a Crider's law, which says that how can you store the data, right? Machine learning and artificial intelligence performs with the help of data. The more data you feed in, the more accurate results you start getting it. But where are you storing this data? The storage of the data is where the Crider's law really come into picture. It's a slightly theoretical aspect, but I want still to the wider forum to understand that these are certain things that have happened in the past to help us reach to this particular point. Yeah. Now I'm getting into, if you see this particular slide, this is where we want to define that how the banks are maturing in embracing technology, emerging technology, artificial intelligence, and then how it is completely transforming the way they engage and the way they build deeper relationship with their customers. Yeah. A lot of these banks, and I'm sure all of us have bank accounts and have relationship with the banks. A lot of these banks are at the stage one. Yeah. And I'll talk a bit about stage one in a minute. Some of these banks are trying to get to stage two. Yeah. Some of the British banks, some of the American banks in matured worlds have already gone into stage two, but a lot of banks in our region are trying to get to stage two. Okay. And finally, stage three is almost like an ultra, modern bank, which has basically adopted everything from an emerging technology and provides an absolutely personalized, seamless, and frictionless service offerings to the customer. Now let's understand what is stage one, stage two, and stage three. Stage one is, yeah, exactly. Very good. Thank you. So just press one more time. Sorry, Semi. Once more, yeah, as well. Okay, good. So stage one, ladies and gentlemen, stage one is when you can see, what I've done is I have sort of described a bank into three components. You can see outbound, which is basically the channels by virtue of which the bank interacts with the customer. And you can see here the call center, the portals, and the branches, right? These are largely the three important channels in which the customers interact with the branch and the bank. In the middle, you see ops, which is the operations, which is basically carrying out the operational activities for a customer. And the third pillar is what is happening inside the bank to fulfill the request coming from the customer. Okay. So if you see in the stage one, what is happening is a lot of banks are incorporating process efficiencies, they are incorporating robotic process automation, and they are incorporating a bit of artificial intelligence on top of the robotics process automation purely to fulfill the customer request as soon as possible. Okay, so if a customer comes and says that my salary has increased and hence I want to increase the loan amount for myself, and once this request is received by the bank, the idea is how soon can you process that request and go back to the customer and say that, listen, your request is fulfilled and here is your new topped up loan amount. Okay, this is the stage one. At the moment, a lot of banks, I don't know, if we go for a mortgage loan or a real estate loan, yeah, a lot of banks in the region take at least 15 days to get my money disbursed, right? Some banks take even 30 days to get my money disbursed for the mortgage, right? Whereas a lot of banks can do it for you in 3 minutes. And I'm not kidding here, right? A lot of banks in India, in UK, are doing it, giving an in principle approval in 3 minutes and disbursal in 9 minutes. How are they able to do it? With the help of backend, which is extremely automated. The process is extremely slick and smooth. And the moment customer comes up with a request, the request is fulfilled and a communication goes out to the customer in absolutely no time. Yeah, this is stage one. And this is where a lot of conversations that we are having with the C-suite, especially the COOs, to how to fix their operations so that we are able to process the request very fast. So this is the overall concept of stage one. Just press once more, Semi, please. Yeah, again. Yeah. So what you see here, these are the characteristics which are listed here. In stage one, the banks are able to provide instant services. They are able to improve the turnaround time and SLAs. Turnaround time means from the moment the request was received, and turnaround time to respond to that. And SLA is the service level agreement. I'm sorry if I'm using a bit of a technical jargons here, but these are some standard terms that we use in banking environment. And STP, and you'll hear a lot about STP, straight through processing, without manual intervention. When a request is received by customer, without a manual intervention, if via systems the entire request can be solved and resolved, that is called as STP. So with the help of the stage one, a lot of banks are trying to achieve instant services. They're trying to improve the SLAs and turnaround times, and overall trying to get into a straight through processing without manual intervention. Yeah, that is your stage one. And I can tell you that a lot of banks in the region, and obviously all of us are customers to some banks, are trying to achieve the stage one, in which they provide instant responses to the services request received from the customer. This is my stage one. Now let's go to the stage two. Again, press again, Semi. Yeah, press again once more. Yeah, exactly. And press once more, huh? So in stage two, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, wait here. In stage two, what is happening is, I understand that you have already fixed the back office operations, right? You have already fixed the back office operations. You're able to immediately and instantly respond to the customers, right, with their request. In stage two, you become slightly more matured and you start providing curated solutions to the customer and say that, listen, your car insurance is due in the month of August, and I know that transaction has to happen in the month of August. Do you want me to process that transaction on your behalf? Okay. So you can imagine you are providing curated solution to the customer. You are providing a nudge, or you're prompting the customer that there are certain transactions that need to happen on your behalf. I know that this is going to happen, so I'm going to provide you or notify you or nudge you or prompt you that you need to carry out such a transaction. So for instance, I know that it's summer's time, and a lot of the residents in the region tend to travel to the Europe and UK. Yeah. What In the curated solution environment, the bank would be able to automatically connect with the travel agents and try and understand that when is the best time for Najm to travel. Yeah. And how the bank is able to realize this with the help of data analytics and machine learning based behavioral analysis. Yeah. Now, so we not just solve the instant response problem, now we are adding data analytics on top of it. Okay. And trying to understand the behavior of the customer. Yeah. The behavior could be that Najm has to always every month, every year in August, has to renew his insurance. So there is a transaction that needs to happen. Or Najm likes to travel to Europe. Or Najm wants to buy the new iPhone that has come up. How are you understanding it? With the help of data analytics. And how are you getting this data about the customer? With the help of additional channels, which is chatbot and virtual assistant. Now, the moment you start getting more information about the customer, and if that data is present in a digitized format, you are able to churn that data, perform data analytics on top of it, and start defining that what is best for Najm. Yeah. They know that I live a lot of time in Saudi, but on weekends I go to Dubai because I live in Dubai. And sometimes on Friday I take my family to dinner, right? So the bank will automatically start prompting it that Najm, there is a discount in JBR in one of the restaurant. Why don't you try that? This is called as hyper personalization and recommendation to the customer that you do these transactions. Here is what our recommendation to you is. Yeah. So as you can see in this particular slide on the right hand side, you are not just providing instant services, you are not just providing straight through processing. In your stage 2, you start analyzing the behavior of the customers, and based on the analysis you start making predictions, and you also start making recommendations to the customer. And overall, if you see, your services and your reliability of the services provided to the customers goes absolutely to the next level. Absolutely to the next level. Yeah. And there are a lot of banks, especially the digital and the challenger banks, are going in this direction, and they are providing certain services, certain hyper personalized services to the customers. Okay, that is your stage 2. Now let's go to the stage 3, please. Keep pressing. Keep pressing. Perfect. Thank you. Now, in the stage 3, ladies and gentlemen, what is happening is that you are not just providing instant services, which is your stage 1. You are not just getting the right behaviors and sentiments of the customers, but at the same time you have a bigger contextualized understanding about your customer. And how are you getting that contextualized and personalized understanding about your customers? By not just connecting with the chatbot, but by also connecting with the third parties with the help of APIs. Now, hear out this term. API is a very important term which is coming up, especially in KSA. With the help of APIs, you're connecting with third parties, and you are extracting all the relevant data pertaining to Najm, which is your customer. And then you start providing and offering services even without Najm realizing that this services he had requested. Okay, so now how are you, so how are you basically, so for example, if there's a bank, okay, and I know that I wear Apple I watch, okay, so Apple Watch basically, yeah, and Apple Watch basically captures a lot of data about a customer. Now imagine that bank is extracting the information from Apple Watch, and maybe the bank realizes that Najam is not walking enough, or Najam has this health related matters, and Najam, and then the bank starts providing information about health related matters to Najam, so that Najam can get and sort out that information. Yeah. Similarly, imagine the bank starts getting the information about a particular customer from social media, yeah, or from any other third party collaboration. Okay, maybe one of the banks here, maybe Al Raji Bank, collaborates with STC, okay, or maybe with Saudi Airlines, and extracts the detail about Najm, who likes to travel a lot, and then starts providing hyper personalized and contextualized information to the customer, and carry out transaction on behalf of the customer, right? This is the ultimate nirvana, or this is the ultimate situation where the banks really want to go. And I'm saying that not I mean, very few banks have reached to this stage, because this also requires a lot of technology aspect, but it also requires the customers to also give consent, right? And I'm sure, I saw a couple of folks from financial services background. You must have heard about open banking, yeah, and Saudi Arabia is spearheading the transformation with regards to open banking, yeah, which means that with the help of customer consent, the bank would be able to extract the information from third parties. The bank would be able to extract the information from other banks, yeah, and start providing very very personalized and contextualized services to the customers, yeah. So this is your stage 3, and as you can see here, in your stage 1, you already provided instant services with the help of robotics and automation and slick processes. In your stage 2, the bank started getting more information with the help of chatbot and virtual assistants, and provided the behavior analysis, and then started recommending to the customers. And in your stage 3, the banks does not stop with their particular channels. They go to the open banking domain. They reach out to the third parties, they reach out to the sensors, they reach out to the watch and the wearable devices, and then extract the information, and then carry out the transaction on behalf of the customer. Okay, but and in sometimes even without the customer really knowing that this transaction has been carried out on my behalf by the bank. Yeah, this is the ultimate nirvana situation where the banks really are trying to get. Yeah, a lot of in financial services jargon, a lot of times this is also called as a marketplace banking. If you search in Google marketplace banking, you will get a bit of an understanding about this as well. Yeah, what I want to leave is by saying that these are certain terms which I used here are a bit technical, so forgive me for that, but I'm sure that if you start reading a little more about those, and obviously the academy can certainly help you with them, you will be becoming an expert slowly into how artificial intelligence is being embraced or adopted into the banking and financial services. Now let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Here we're talking about a vertical spotlight. Yeah, now uh, I think I would want to leave a bit of a KPIs and metrics here. The kind of humongous data that is coming up. Yeah, there are 5 billion customers by 2020. This is PwC analysis, and you can search it as well. There are 5 billion internet customers, right? There are 50 billion sensors and devices which are connected to each other. So I am, with my help of my phone, my laptop, my Facebook account, social media account, you can imagine there are 50 billion devices which are connected. There are 3.8 billion users. Yeah, and there are each day 1.8 billion pictures being uploaded. So you can imagine the kind of humongous data that is being pushed into the social media and the internet. And if you start really analyzing this data, you can extract I don't know how much information, and they rightly call that data is the new oil, right? And a lot of banks have understood this. They are trying to fix their data analytics engine and trying to get to the next stage. Please go to the next slide, Semi, please. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. 85% of the CEOs, it's a no-brainer. 85% of the CEOs with whom we talked globally and in the region, they say that data analytics and artificial intelligence sit in their strategic priorities. Artificial intelligence is the most spoken word in the boardroom conversations. Yeah, uh, they say by 2030, $13 trillion will be the amount that we are trying to, I mean, that will be spent on the AI side from a GDP growth AI perspective. Yeah, go to the next slide, please. Yeah, I mentioned a couple of terms. I don't need to go into the details, but I can clearly tell you that when you search for artificial intelligence, chances are that these are certain things that will pop up in your screen. Machine learning, the mechanism in which the learning or the algorithm is capable of self-learning and making itself more accurate as you start providing more data into it. That's number one. Natural language processing, I spoke about. Natural language processing is a phenomena by virtue of which the machine is able to understand what the customer is saying, yeah, with the help of free text field. Then similarly, you've got expert systems, robotics, vision, right? So Semi gave an example of how in a picture somebody is able to realize if some guy is wearing mask or not, or if there is a cat in the picture. That is all the evolution that's happening on the vision. Yeah, so this is just a high level on that. Go to the next, please, Semi. Yeah, here I want to basically give you a live use case, which, by the way, we have already implemented for one of the banks in the region. For confidentiality reasons, I can't mention the name. And what happens here is that, let me explain the use case, and then we will run the demo in front of you. The use case has that the bank has opened a portal. Portal is a window in which the customer can come, and customer, if he has any problem or if he has any request or if he has any grievances or any challenges, he can come and write his problems. It will work with the combination of two technologies. Technology number one is the natural language processing, in which it is able to decipher or understand what is being told. And then subsequently, we have got robotics to take that request, raise that into the system, fulfill that request, come back and inform the customer that this request has been solved. So if I please request to run the demo. Thank you very much. Semi, do we know who has the control for running? Yeah, thank you. This is how the natural language processing engine is working, wherein the request is being reported, and you can see, the robot is basically writing it. The request has been received from the portal, and you can see the robot is now taking that request, putting it into the NLP algorithm, and trying to understand what that request really means. And it comes out that the request is about loan rescheduling. Yeah. So we are able to decipher with the help of NLP engine that what is the request the customer is making. And once the request is understood with the help of NLP engine, the robot takes that request, goes to the back office, which is entirely automated with the help of robotics. As you can see, this is all being carried out with the help of robot. Yeah, it calculates what's the amount of loan that can be granted. It also calculates what's the debt burden ratio for this particular customer. Yeah. Yeah, the ticket is being created in the system, the ticket is being closed, and this is how you're calculating the debt burden ratio. Finally, a salary certificate has been opened, which the customer provides. It takes the value from there, computes what's the loan amount that can be given to the customer, all being carried out automatically. And finally, updates the customer along with the salary certificate via an email, or an SMS can be also sent out. I mean, for our demo purposes, we used email, which also has salary certificate, which has contract on the basis of the loan, the loan amount rescheduled. You see, this is all being carried out with the help of an automated robot, which is carrying out this exercise. So what used to happen in number of days, with the help of NLP engine and with the help of automation, we were able to fulfill that request within minutes. Yeah. And the email goes out. I think it's attaching also the okay, fine, thank you. I think we can go back to the presentation. Thank you. Semi, please go back to the presentation if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah, so this, I mean, with the help of this use case, I wanted to showcase that how banks are really trying to transform themselves by embracing the emerging technology, and and try and see which use case really fits in, and then incorporate the technology on top of that use case, and then transform the customer experience at the end of the day, right? And this is how the banks are also transforming. Yeah, let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, we will come to the, yeah, so the third section, wherein we again sort of go to the next slide, please. Go next. Yeah, go next. Go next. Yeah, again, another use case, ladies and gentlemen. This was a bank in the region which basically told us that not enough customers are coming to the channels. Yeah, so as you can imagine, with the COVID times, a lot of customers are, they prefer going to the channels rather than to the branches, right? So they try and access the digital channels for the customer. Now the race the banks are having at the moment is, how can you attract more and more customers, existing customers and new customers, to the bank, and get them onto their digital channels. Yeah, and once you get them on their digital channel, internet banking or mobile banking, how do you ensure that the journey of that customer, from the moment he logs in into the channel until he selects which product he wants or which credit card he wants, you basically personalize his journey in such a way, by providing prompt notifications or by guiding the customer, so that that customer ends up becoming a ends up in having a relationship with that particular bank. Okay, so there is, so you can imagine, how do you attract new customers, how do you basically get existing customers to have increased and deeper relationship with the banks, all these, how do you attract the request of the customers via social media? So for instance, if I am a customer and I just tweet through my account, that I want to understand which is the best credit card to watch Euro, or which is the best credit card to follow Manchester United or Real Madrid. I like Liverpool, so for me Liverpool, let's say. And in that scenario, how can the bank go and access the social media and try and find out that, oh, Najam as a customer is a social, is a Liverpool fan. So how can we basically provide him the best product or the best credit card, so that he doesn't leave us, he becomes a customer to us, and then and basically forms a relationship with us. Yeah, so there is a race going on between the banks with the help of AI and data, that how can you create more leads, and once you have created more leads, how do you convert those leads, basically make those explorers as your customers, and then how do you provide services which are so smooth and slick and personalized and frictionless, so that that particular customer never leaves you. and in fact he increases his products and relationship with you. So this is another classic use case in which a lot of banks are heading out, and I am personally having a lot of conversations with the retail banking heads and digital the chief digital officers to basically transform the overall experience of the customers, create more leads, convert those leads, and create a better and deeper relationship. Another use case. Yeah, let's go to the next slide, please, Semi. Thank you. Next. Yeah, so in this next section, what I want to just tell you that fine, we have understood perhaps what is artificial intelligence, what are the subcomponents of artificial intelligence, and we spoke about natural language processing, we spoke about machine learning, we spoke about optical character recognition, we also spoke about natural language generation. But how does a bank start that journey, and what are the things that any particular bank has to do to start that particular journey, and they have to be basically conscious about it. So let's press one time, Semi. Thank you. Here, as you can see, what the message here is: how do you start a business decision, right? I mean, in fact, if you have decided that you want to start AI in the organization, it has to be top down. The board has to decide, the CEO and the C-suite members have to take that decision, and then start a journey from somewhere. Again, press Semi. Thank you. Yeah. Then the suggestion is to not to go big bang on artificial intelligence. Pick the right use cases, decide what are the right use cases for the bank, and carry out small proof of concepts, POCs and pilots, and start seeing the results. Yeah. And once you have seen the results, so you basically see what's the results, and then you expand, and then once the results are comfortable and you feel that yes, it's working, then you scale up the results. Yeah. The third important aspect is, how do you for every key decision that is taken in the bank, it has to be data driven. That's a principle that a lot of banks are adopting. For instance, if I have to digitize my operations department, for example, mortgage, auto, you need to have a data backed point of view that what kind of transformation needs to happen. Maybe the cost is extremely high. Yeah. Maybe the turnaround time for carrying out a mortgage loan application is very high. Yeah. So it has to be data driven. And how do you get a data driven insight? By having a data factory within the organization, which also needs to happen. Yeah. Other important aspect is, don't be too huge in creating a data stream. Start lean. And when I say lean, when I start an innovation journey in a bank, the first thing I do is I create a center of excellence for that particular organization. And that center of excellence does not mean that I straight away get 15 people. No, I'll start off with 2 smart people who understand what I'm trying to achieve with the help of center of excellence. And as we keep going on, we bring more people on the ground, and then we start expanding on that. Yeah. So don't forget that we have to have a lean team and lean data. Yeah. Fail forward. Yeah. Don't waste 6 months in creating one pilot. Create one pilot in 2 and 3 weeks time. See how is it expanding, how the results are coming out. If the results are good, scale up. If not, leave it behind, start new use case. Yeah. Don't spend 6 months, 3 quarters in doing pilot. And finally, have a responsible AI. Responsible AI is a topic in itself. I think Semi or somebody from the academy will talk about it. But responsible AI means that have a very principled artificial intelligence algorithm defined, so that you start on the right path when you're starting the artificial intelligence journey. Let's go next, please. Yeah, I mean, there are certain challenges. There are obviously a challenge around return on investment. There would be challenges, of course, from a data perspective. You got to be conscious about the security and the cyber security aspects when you are starting on this journey. And all of these tasks are basically given to the center of excellence that gets created within the organization. Yeah, they also have to see how can they have a culture of risk aversion, so far and so forth. Yeah, go to the next slide, please. Yeah, I just, this is my final slide. Some of the books that I have read, uh, there are a lot of other books also. I mean, obviously you can reach out to my LinkedIn as well, or to the Financial Academy, or to the PwC Academy, and we'll be happy to share across a lot of other reading materials for you. But these are certain books that I have loved reading, and I'm sure, inshallah, this will also help you in identifying more knowledge. That's it from my side, and thank you very much. I'll hand it over back to Semi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Najim, for these extremely good cutting-edge examples from the financial services industry. So we learned a lot from you. Now let's see what is going on in terms of AI in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now I'll share my parts, and I'm waiting for my presentation to come up. Okay, if we compare the Middle East countries with the world in terms of the contribution of AI to the GDP by 2030, so China will be leading globally. But if we compare the UAE and especially KSA with North America and some European countries, actually they are par, and the Middle Eastern countries are even better than for some of the developed Asia and Northern European countries as well, which is a very good, very motivating fact. Now let's see what are the reasons behind that one. The first thing is, of course, the signature of the National Strategy for Data and AI by King Salman bin Abdulaziz. And for the KSA itself, it is estimated that AI will contribute 500 billion riyals. I couldn't just pronounce the number. 500 billion riyals to the economy by 2030 in KSA. Of course, having a specific strategy for data and AI is an important enabler in order to achieve those kind of contributions by 2030. And if you look at the approach which is set out, the roadmap drawn by the strategy, so currently it is aimed to be a national enabler. So the technology is used for achieving the priorities and then focusing on more specialist applications. We all know the NEOM. It has a lot of AI applications in terms of the automation, optimization of the transportation, etc. And by 2030, the nationwide, it is aimed to be develop some industry leaders, use cases and examples, which will be the benchmarks for the world itself. And as part of the strategy, also the SDAIA, Saudi Data and AI Authority, is also formed. And the role of SDAIA to achieve or to enable this strategy is, of course, to guide the execution of the strategy with the government entities, and of course facilitate the execution of all these strategy initiatives. There are some priority sectors, there are some priority areas also, like the using the Arabic language in the natural language processing initiatives, etc. And also execute the SDAIA Plus-led initiatives, some of the specific initiatives which are organized and run by SDAIA. One of the best examples is this Global AI Summit, which was conducted in October last year. And it was one of the best and unique examples in this area. So we were lucky to be participants in that summit, and it just brought international speakers, all the spokespersons from the governments, the industry experts, AI experts, and the players from the top technology players from all around the world. So all these are contributions to achieving those goals by 2030. And also some facts from PwC, so how we see the Middle East region and KSA, and how the developments will be in here, especially with the accumulation of data, and also focus on the AI and the other technologies in this field by the leaders, by the governors. So we also believe, so our estimations are actually very similar. So the contribution of artificial intelligence to economy, it is estimated to be 135 billion USD in KSA, and you can just I'll just read that one, and I'll not go over all of the countries. But if we look at that, it will be actually the 2% of the global benefits in 2030. And actually, in terms of the absolute terms, the largest gains in the region will be accrued by Saudi Arabia economy, which is actually not so surprising. And the biggest sector gains are forecasted to be in retail, public sector, healthcare, and education. And also, if you look at the industries specifically, the industries which are more likely or more easier to automate, like the labor-intensive sectors, retail and health, of course, the gains will be more in those sectors. And also, when there are already some of the use cases which are implemented globally, which will be directly taken, and as you can see, financial services is one of them, and this is what Najim has been sharing throughout his speech. And there are some initiatives taken by both UAE and KSA governments, the Smart Dubai strategy, Dubai 3D printing strategy, which they built an entire house by the 3D printers, and also the autonomous transportation strategy. On the other hand, KSA has the plans to improve the efficiency within the healthcare sector and has some specific and significant investments there, and also improve the data and digital literacy of the entire population and increase the number of internet users in the kingdom, again, significantly. And of course, there are a lot of initiatives, but I would like to just finish with this important partnership. So when we talk about data infrastructure, when we talk about AI, technology companies who are the enablers in this area play a major role. Coming from a telecommunications background, I believe the initiatives taken by SDAIA in partnership with STC are really important, and also a recent news about it that it is actually happening as we speak at the moment. I would like to finish with a quote, building on the quote that Najim shared. So he shared, data is the new oil. I would like to build on that. If data is the new oil, AI is the new electricity. Now, Isa Dalal from PwC's Academy will share why we need to upskill ourselves in AI, artificial intelligence, with some of the facts and figures from the region and also from the globe. Over to you, Isa.
Thank you, Samir. So we listened to all these nice things that we could do with AI, and we've seen all the opportunities and additions that we could add with AI, like whether in the citizen lives or within our customers, like from banking perspective, or even in our tourists, etc. So it could definitely enhance the lives of everyone when using AI. However, any new technology, any new emerging technology like AI or blockchain, etc., it comes with a challenge to implement. And one of the main challenges we face, and we've seen with our clients and with our the different organizations across the region, is having the right capabilities and the right people to implement and to work on AI. So PwC, we conduct a survey on an annual basis, and where we collect responses from the global CEOs and leaders, ministers from across the globe, and to get the different perspectives. And on our 20-second survey, there's a snippet which if you could share the slides, please. You can see that the main challenge that all leaders or CEOs they have in mind is having the capabilities and the in-house talent to implement and to use AI. So they all agree that AI and data is the way to go and is a mainstream. It should go mainstream and should be very important for their organizations. However, they have main concerns around skills gap and the ability in terms of talent and skills to implement AI. If we go to the next slide. So MIT, also the well-known university, they did a similar survey, and they found out that one of the main constraints also, and which is like 40% of the respondents to that survey, they said that lack of skills and lack of professionals in AI is one of the main challenges to implement AI. So let's dig deeper into this one. So why is this happening? In any digital transformation, we have three pillars. We used to talk about three pillars till recently, which are the technology, having the right technology, have the right process, and have the right people to implement those technologies. Of course, now with the new oil, as Najim said, the data, with the increase of use, the wealth of data we have now, so that's why it became a fourth pillar. However, most organizations, if we go to the next slide, they focus all their investment in technology and process, and they have very little investment on data and much less on people. And because of that, most of the organizations, they face challenges when it comes to implementing AI and to harnessing the power of AI. So, and when we talk about people upskilling and people investing in people, we don't mean only on investing in people who are, AI experts and or AI professionals. We are also talking about all levels in the organization. So, Samih, if you can go to the next one. So yeah, so we're talking about all levels. So let me give you an example. If a manager goes to the CFO of an organization, let's say a bank or a ministry, and say now after COVID that we don't need Zoom or we don't need, for example, to have MS Teams. So because it's just an extra cost and it's, we need extra resources to implement MS Teams on Zoom, etc. I'm sure the CFO will reject this proposal right away. I'm sure like 95 or 100% of CFOs will reject those because we all know how important is now video conferencing to our day-to-day jobs and to day-to-day execution of work. So similarly, also if you go to any staff and you ask them like, could you use Zoom or MS Teams? We all know how to use it. Now we faced some challenges when we started using it after COVID, but now everyone is familiar with those technologies. Similarly, those kind of conversations should happen also for AI. In order for AI to become mainstream and to become like everywhere, we need to have those kind of similar conversations. So whenever someone goes to a CFO who's not a techie, who's not a technologist, does not have any technology background, he should be able to at least understand AI is very important for us as a bank or as a ministry to digitize and to beat our competition. And that's why we need to implement AI. It's not about whether we need AI or not. It should be more about how can we go about it, how we can save costs by either, like upskilling people in-house or maybe, like bring consultants, etc. But those are the conversations that leaders and staff should have. But in order to get that, we need to provide them with the proper awareness, proper training and upskilling so that they have this right mindset and right understanding of those technologies. Like what we had initially, as I said, like about Zoom and those technologies after we had COVID. So, and also about practitioners. So the challenge now that we face with practitioners and people who are like the experts in AI, that even if we try to go hire people, if we try to hire the talent, we don't have enough talent. This is a global issue. So if you move on to the next one, Nassimi. So indeed, they have this graph. Indeed, of course, is a famous recruitment website. You can see now the number of people who are searching for AI-related jobs are increasing gradually. But we see like the job openings and the job posts related to AI are drastically increasing. Because why this spike? Because AI is becoming more and more very important and very crucial to all organizations. But the talent is lacking behind in terms of the properly skilled and properly talented people who could work on AI. Hence, it's very important it's not a challenge only for private sector, it's not a challenge only for public sector or for government. It's everywhere, it's for everyone. And that's why we need to have proper upskilling and proper talent development programs across the nation, whether, on a nationwide level or even with the private sector level. Luckily, in the Saudi Arabia, similarly, you could see also the increase in demand. This is from the Future of Jobs report. Everyone is now looking for those kind of jobs, like data scientists, data analysts, AI, and machine learning, because I've seen it over and over and over again. We've seen like what Najim has alluded to in terms of like personalization, customization, customer experience, all these things which require AI, and that's why we need those talented people who could work on those technologies. So if you can go to the next one. So luckily, in the Saudi Arabia, has taken huge initiatives and huge steps in order to start bridging the gap in terms of people who could work on AI. So part of the strategy, which Samir has alluded to, the one which was created by the Sadaya on the data and AI, one of the main pillars was kafa'at, how to build the capabilities, how to build the talent in Saudi Arabia. And they have a strategy to build upskill around 20,000 people, Saudis, in the AI and data field. Similarly, we've seen also the Ministry of Communication and IT, they established the Saudi Digital Academy, and one of the initiatives they have is the data science boot camps, and they have similar other boot camps where people go through those training programs, and they end up with employment or some kind of jobs hiring. So, and this is why it's also important to have this partnership between private and public sector, because those kind of boot camps where it ends up with the employment, etc. Because after we develop those AIs and those AI experts, we also need to bring in the jobs and placement, so that they could also start putting those skills and newly acquired skills into practice. We've seen also 2 years ago when the Saudi Federation for Cybersecurity and Drones, they did a Hajj hackathon. And this is, again, brings the focus on why we need the local talent. So we have 4 Saudi ladies, they created this app which could read the signs in Arabic and translate it to people in different languages when they go for Hajj, which is one of the main obstacles and one of the challenges we have. Is we have millions of people coming to Hajj, do pilgrimage, and they come from different backgrounds, different countries, and not all of them can understand and read Arabic. So that's why, and this is where we could see AI could also serve humanity and serve other non-commercial also aspects. So this is why it's very important to start building and focusing the talent internally, locally in the Saudi Arabia. UAE did a similar thing. So they came up with the University of AI, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed University in AI. And also they have the first minister of AI in the world. So we've seen this across the region where countries are taking the initiative to take the power, to take the lead on this technology. And this is on the public sector. Also in the public sector, like PwC, we are investing heavily on building our capabilities in-house, because also PwC realized that we cannot rely on importing or recruiting talent. We have also to build our in-house talent in order to take the lead and beat our competitors. So those are the things. So we could see that it's very important that for both public and private sector to start working and to start thinking strategically on how to build the talent in AI. So here are some recommendations how we could go around the upskilling and the talent issue. So it has, as Najim said, when we came to building capabilities in AI, it has to start from top down. The executives has to have the buy-in that we need to have an AI, we need to have the AI talent, and that's why they need to have the strategy, the proper strategy, how to build the technology, how to build also the talent that will work with this technology to pioneer it and to be the leaders in AI. We could have different levels, so not all people will be professionals and will be the experts in AI, but we have to support the AI implementation with the experts who will work with AI on their day-to-day basis, but also with the people who have the understanding to support the enablers or the AI practitioners to implement the AI. So they have to come up with the use cases. They have to work with the technology, with the technology expert on how to bring those use cases, how to improve the data that will work with, how to come up with the new recommendations so that they could feed all these things to the technologists and AI experts. Similarly, also the organization has to be set up in a way to support this AI implementation. So we have to have the center of excellence which has the know-how, the best practices that all people in the organization can go back to find out anything that they need in terms of AI. What are the best practices? How to avoid also like the responsible, like any issues in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of data privacy, responsible AI, like what Najm alluded to. All these best practices has to be like, we have to have a center of excellence that people, the citizen-led initiative and innovations could go back to find out more information, to find more knowledge. And of course, the organization should have different things like to also to support those initiatives. For example, we should have the right infrastructures in terms of technology and data inventory. We should have incentive, and we should incentivize the people to go through this training and to upskill themselves in AI. And we might need also sometimes to ask people to change their career path from, for example, like a finance people to become an AI scientist. Similarly, like people who are working in marketing, for example, to become more like a digital marketing, and people who are expert in AI. We need those people to start, changing maybe the career path, and that's why in order to encourage them, we need to incentivize them. We need to provide them with either like a training programs. We need to provide like some awards, sometimes some appreciation, so that they go through this very important journey in order to support this AI implementation. And of course, communicating this across the board, from board level all the way to the bottom of the organization. Everyone has to be on board with this like very important journey to any organization. With that, I will conclude the presentation, and over to you, Samir.
Thank you very much, Isa, for this wrap-up final part. So we learned very good tips and tricks on how we can upskill ourselves and also our organizations and to become an AI-driven company. Now the floor is yours. Please submit your questions. Also, we can open up the slide, the presentation to share our details as well. Now, please use the chat to submit your questions. I will redirect your questions to our guest speakers tonight. Once again, thanks to Financial Academy and thanks to all of you for your time. So I have some questions coming in. First question, I think this can be for Najm. Given that most of the financial services institutions are in a nascent stage of data management programs, how does AI solution overcome the impediment of poor, inaccurate, insufficient data?
Yeah, I think whosoever has asked this question, you have hit the nail on its head. It's an absolutely spot on question. Anywhere that we start our journey, we obviously face this particular challenge, but you have to start from somewhere, right? You've got to start from somewhere. The first thing that we tend to do is we basically start at least creating a sort of a center of excellence, or you can call it with any name, right? I mean, there are organizations in which we call it ACE, Analytics Center of Excellence. You basically, and there's an approach, and PwC has helped a number of organizations in defining the center of excellence around data, then lean data, then structured data, then providing use cases to how to figure out that data. So and then carry out a number of proof of concepts and then go ahead on that. But you're absolutely right, majority of the organizations are struggling with data, and there is an approach in which we tend to incorporate a bit of a center of excellence around it, so that we can start at least thinking about leveraging the data and go ahead in that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Najm. Another question: how to be a successful programmer in artificial intelligence? So I'd like to ask Isa. Isa, do you have some trainings to recommend on artificial intelligence?
Sure. So the beauty of those technologies that anyone could embark and could get on this journey. So to become a successful programmer in AI, it always starts with the basic, which is statistics and math. This is the most important. People focus usually on the programming and the technology, which is honestly is the easy part, but they forget the basics, which is statistics and math. So we have in the PwC Academy, we do programs where we cover the Python and Python and statistics. And the nice thing about also AI that most of the tools nowadays are all open source, so it's available. Anyone could play with those. So you could attend the course and then go back home and start playing with those technologies. So it's not a difficult path. If you have the initiative, if you have the motivation, you could go get into this journey as soon as possible, and we could help you also with that as well.
Thanks, Isa. Also, to give you a note, I am one of the trainers of those AI programs. Another questions from the human resources delegates. So, how to use this technology in the HR department, and what advice would you like to give to HR professionals if they have to start working on AI projects? So I can take these questions. I delivered some keynotes on specific use cases of AI in human resources department. So for candidate selection, it is being used even for employee segmentation, like similar to the customer segmentation. I implemented the project myself, and also to measure and to compare performances of the people and find some correlations with their salaries, with their bonuses, and also try to detect the extreme values. People are getting maybe overpaid or underpaid when compared to the average performances. And also we have done a really interesting project by using the security cameras of the company. We were trying to get the mood of the employees, like similar to running those people surveys. We were trying to just get the snapshot of the company, how happy the employees are. Of course, HR is one of the least data-driven departments so far, but we have seen very nice examples in and the formation of HR analytics companies, especially about the multinationals. And if you have to work on these kind of AI projects, my first recommendation would be, as Isa's recommendation, Isa's tip on his slide. So build some HR citizen data scientists, build an HR analytics team, and make them be the link with the centralized AI team so that they can take the expertise and implement it into HR department. If you will not learn coding, so just make yourselves familiar with AI, learn about all the use cases of HR as possible, and be the users, be the consumers of AI, and start demanding those kind of projects and solutions from your IT department or from your AI teams. I am checking. I think there are no other questions, and we are already 5 minutes past the time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Najim. Thank you, Isa, for your great contributions. And once again, thanks to the Financial Academy for organizing this.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Everyone, good evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Selamun Aleyküm.